Good evening, one and all. Today is Sunday, March 30th, and welcome to Waterhouse Vibes. I'm Nita, your host, along with my fellow panelists, John Arton and Mr. Herb Nelson. We expect some other panelists to be joining us as we proceed, so don't be surprised if you see them pop in. Today, we want to have a discussion around the recent budget that was presented in the House of Parliament in Jamaica. We want to discuss that because I guess I have my views, some disappointment, and what have you. But before we get into that, there are some other key issues that I think we should look at. One is Mario Rubio visit to Jamaica, where he met with the Prime Minister with regards to the Cuban program going on in the Caribbean, medical personnel involvement. And next is Champs. Champs is happening this weekend. And it seems like we have another Usain Bolt, but this time it's a female. There's a young miss in La Covia High School that is dominating the tracks in Jamaica. And I don't know if you guys are following it, but this young miss from La Covia High is a dynamite. Okay? So it seems as if the Jamaica athletics program is going. One thought that once Usain Bolt left Jamaica, thing would be going downhill, but it doesn't look like that. And we're hoping for some other news from Jamaica as to the outcome because she was disqualified and she appealed it, and now she's in the 200 meters. She won the girls' class 100 meters sprint, and now she's down to be running the 200 meters. Gentlemen, good evening. I guess we want another guest here joining us. Before we get into it, let me bring this person in. This might be Patrick. I don't know. This Patrick. Seems to be Patrick. Oh, yes, Patrick. Where is he now? Patrick? Okay, there he is. Yeah.
Can't see him.
He'll come. Yes, and I was saying the track and field thing seems to be going in the right direction. Another positive development in Jamaica is the Constitutional Court. Labour rights government seems like they want to gerrymander some seat in St. Catherine, so they decided to create a new parish in the country, so moving us from 14 to 15 parish. The PNP got upset, went to the Constitutional Court, and a block was placed on it. So Holness and the GLP can't use their majority in Parliament to force through this thing anymore. The Supreme Court said that this measure that they are putting in place must meet certain constitutional requirements before they can proceed. And that effectively put a hold on what's happening because many thought that the GLP was gerrymandering this thing so that they can get a seat in place or a parish ready for the election. Now it doesn't seem like that's going to happen, so they have to go back to the drawing board. A lot of interesting things happening in Jamaica. Yes, Mr. Patrick, where are you? I don't see you yet. But we're going to proceed. John, the budget John. I send out.
Why we don't talk about the small items first? Well, that's my suggestion. I mean, the champs. I'm not aware of this young lady, and probably what is hurting her is coaching. Whenever new people or relatively new athletes come on the scene, if you don't know the rules in terms of
Patrick. Yeah, but I had it to the thing. Don't see it. Like, yes, John.
I don't
Continue.
see anything.
Continue,
yes,
John.
yeah, I'm saying that the young lady that you referred to, I'm not aware. I wasn't following it in so much detail. I only
Yeah.
saw comments on Facebook, and especially with my one of my old schools, there were a couple athletes that were given distinguished mention. But
Yeah.
this young lady you referred to, I'm happy to hear that every year, if we can produce a new star in track and field every year, that would be a very good practice. But one of the problems I think is Lacovia is, a country school, and it's possible that they're not getting the necessary coaching. Why she might have been disqualified either
False
because,
start.
yeah,
False
false,
start.
right? That
She
is
ap- she
about
ap- she appealed it in and they allow her to run. She did appeal it.
meaning appeal it right there, or they allow her to run
Yeah.
in a different
No.
race.
No. She appealed it right there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
But it's
don't
a
forget one
reflection.
thing,
It's still a
John.
reflection of the coaching.
John,
Yeah.
you can appeal, but you running on the protest. That's what that means.
Yeah,
And
I
then
didn't know
they
that.
have to decide afterwards if they're gonna, if you win, if they're gonna give you the win.
Yeah,
And
but that's not what happened here. She appealed and she's allowed to run.
In the same race.
Yeah, the 200 meters. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm only saying it goes back to my point. Something like that has a lot to do with coaching and understanding the rules so that there's no just like the baton change, even the professional athletes who run many times um, don't necessarily get it right. Much more new athletes coming on the scene. A lot has to do with the coaching, especially when it comes to some of the what I refer to as the rural schools where they don't invest as heavily. So you have a natural talent, but along with the natural talent, you have to have good coaching to help um,
Okay.
bloom or explode that natural talent. So I'm glad to hear that we'll see a number of those come up in the at the end of the champs.
Yeah.
So I certainly today is the last day. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I will just comment on that. The other thing is
but
The,
take a look at
the,
what I sent you, John. The boys' accomplishment. That 10 to 13-year-old group, Kai
your
Kelly.
sound. Yeah, can you turn up your sound a little? It's just very muffled.
Okay, can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay, Kai Kelly in the 10 to 13-year-old group run the 100 meters in 10.6 seconds. 13 years old. That's the boy. Now the young lady, you talk about Sabrina Dockery of Lacovia.
Yeah.
That's right.
set a world leading personal best 11.08 seconds in the 17 to 18-year-old age group for girls. See, what I can't understand is when you look at the timer said 10.94 or something like that. And then they changed the timer to different time, give you a higher. I mean, I don't understand what's going on. Is the timer not working properly or what? Because according to what the timer was saying, she ran a sub 11, and then they
Yeah,
changed
but
it.
the wind. They have to take into consideration the wind.
Yeah, but
No, they don't change it. Whatever the time is, even if there is a wind factor, it's still the time that is posted in the
yeah,
stadium. If there is a wind factor, they don't this minus the wind. They might
yeah,
say
but
something.
go back and look at the timer and the finish time in each of these races. They don't match what they're posting, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, I
And
can't speak to that because I'm not sure myself what is happening. I just know in big meets, Olympics and so on, if there is a wind factor, they don't change the time, but they will. It's a determinant in the overall time. Like if it's a Olympic record or a meet record or something like that. But normally they don't change the time when they post the time, the final time. That's the time that the person do, whether there is a wind factor or not. So I don't really know. I can't comment on it, her, because I'm just reading your comment, and I can't speak to that. You have 10.6 here for Kelly.
really putting down the pedal to the metal.
Yeah,
Then Gary Cardinal, the class one, 10.28. His stuff was saying almost like 10.006, and then they changed it also. So this is why I say some of these things were confusing to me when I was watching it, and I'm wondering how in the hell they can just change the timer. Unless if the timer is not working properly, then they need to get rid of it and just give us the time from what the officials are clocking by hand or whichever means they're using. Yeah, but the times that our kids are running down there in Jamaica are fascinating because there's no doubt in my mind. When you have a female the world leading time, and you have the boys doing the kind of times that is coming out, it's going to be in something else because there's a kid, this tall, lanky kid looking like Usain Bolt of old, running in Australia. That did a
that's right.
he
That's
did
right.
right. He did. He's running
He's
uh
running better than Usain Bolt at his
better than
age.
Bolt, like 9.98. And then he's I think he's 16. Then he did a sub 200 meters. He did a sub 20-second 200-meter run, 19.96. But he hasn't repeated it again. So you're gonna see the world under 20 competition when that comes around. That our kids might be impressive in Carifta, but let's see what happened on the world stage. Because the US had some great runners also. So we're
Yes,
gonna have to look out and see what this kid in Australia. He's from some African country. I can't remember which one. Somalia, I think. Um, but he's putting
No,
down.
I believe he is an Aboriginal youth from Australia.
No,
Um,
no, no. He's from
no, no, no,
Africa.
no, he's from Africa,
Oh,
He-
all right.
He's from Sudan, I think. Yeah,
Sudan. Yeah, that's right, Sudan.
Sudan.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Uh-huh.
But man, they put down some times, and I don't know if our Jamaican kids gonna be able to train to get sub 10 seconds on the 100 and sub 20 second on the 200.
Well,
Uh,
we did it before with Bolt, so it's possible.
yeah, that's
It's,
true.
yeah, we
That's,
did it before, so it's possible. It's just
yeah.
that one of the biggest concern, at least is that when they come to America and do the American college circuit, it coming like them just get mashed up.
17 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, them get mash up. So you find the question now is whether or not athletes should stay in Jamaica and train and bypass American circuit because they
Yeah.
really burn them out. That's a big question, and will prove that it is possible to condition the athletes in Jamaica. It's will
Well,
prove that. So
we have the coaching in Jamaica now. Um,
yeah,
we have world
not
famous coaches.
not just the coaching, but what we have is a very effective system that the Cuban help us to establish.
Hmm.
And the faster college, man, they turn out some good coaches, good techniques, and that's something Jamaican people will always remember. GC Foster College, you
And they
know.
had Cuban coaches back then.
Yes, it was a Cuban who came in and set that up. So, which bring me to this question now, Rubio. What you think? What you hearing, Herb? What you hearing? Because still, Rubio visited Jamaica this week, and I'm not sure the outcome. Some people said only stand up. I'm not sure if there's a stand up or is something we haven't heard the full story about.
Look,
Herb, you heard anything on that front?
there was a lot of hype before as to whether or not Jamaica is going to rebuff the US and declare
Yeah.
that they're not going to comply with the wishes of the US government when it comes to Cuban doctors. But they, the ambassador here, I believe, here in the US, did an exceptional job of preparing Rubio and the US government in just going down there, listening to what the prime minister had to explain about Jamaica's shortage of doctors and nurses, which is caused by the US basically. The US recruiting all the good doctors and nurses out of Jamaica. So you can't be recruiting all the good people on one hand and then complaining when we gotta go find people um, in Cuba. Also, what they were claiming is that what the Cubans were doing amounted to trafficking in persons. Of course, trafficking in persons can be trafficking for labor and trafficking for, I guess, sex and other weirder things that they do in the Caribbean. And it turns out the prime minister was able to explain to Rubio, no, the Cuban doctors in Jamaica get paid, right? They take very good care of the medical staff in Jamaica, right? They have housing, they have food, and they get paid. So Rubio's visit, not just Jamaica, but some other Caribbean countries like Guyana that he went to, um, his discussion with the wholeness focus on strengthening U.S. Jamaica relations. The security part that they talked about had to do with the cartels and the gangs and the armed shipments out of the U.S. in which Rubio has promised to do more. Matter of fact, something that we in the anti-crime task force and in the proposal that we made for the last 3 years to the US for Fusion Center. So Rubio is going to finally address the Fusion Center idea and give us the other equipment that's needed, like body cam for police officers, right? And that
How you know that? How you know that, Herb?
because I was looking at some of the reviews that came out of the meeting, right? You guys go on YouTube and you should be able to see some of the reviews. And I
I did
talked
share
to,
something, I think.
uh,
I think I did share something which basically said the same thing you just explained.
right. And also, I'm speaking to the State Department the group here in Washington, and we're talking about the overtures made for them to enhance the security in Haiti so that there's no weapons spilling out into the Caribbean and gangs spilling out into the Caribbean because they run from one island to the next. They take weapons with them. They sell weapons so that they can eat. You know, guns for food and all kinds of guns for different things, right? So when it comes to security, that enhancement will be made. And I think, as I explained to some folks before, Jamaica is to the Caribbean as England, or the UK rather, or Great Britain, is to Europe, as Israel is to the Middle East.
Middle East.
Yes. So Jamaica
That's
was
correct. That's
never under
correct.
threat, never under any threat of having anything pulled, because again, you see some tactical moves being made, bringing General Anderson here to Washington, and you see the success that they're having, keeping the U.S. out of Jamaica's operational affairs, right? So I would say that Rubio praised Jamaica's progress in reducing crime, and he committed to reviewing the travel advisories, which been pretty bad for the last 2 years. And so they expect that's going to help boost tourism a lot more from the U.S. coming down to Jamaica, right? Energy security was another topic, and diversifying energy sources in the region to reduce reliance on Venezuelan oil, which Jamaica relies on, right? Um, the, the fact is, um, Jamaica did a key thing, which was volunteer to send troops into Haiti. And because of that, Jamaica pretty much wrote um, a check for the future. They're gonna be able to cash in on that action that they took, sending those guys down to Haiti, right? So I just see a lot of pluses that that could possibly come as a result of Ruby visit down to Jamaica and the way things played out. If you look at if you looked at the news conference they had afterwards, all right. Um, it doesn't mean that if there's a change in government next year, they won't feel the same way. To me, I think things are going to play out very well. China never came up. Nobody's telling Jamaica that they can't deal with the Chinese. Like they can't deal with the Cubans, right? So as long as Jamaica keep doing things that assist the U.S. in managing the Western Hemisphere, then I believe that Jamaica will have a free pass.
Patrick, Herb think that the Rubio visit was a positive, has some positive in it. Does this mean it's going to impact the election and the GLP? What's your take?
That's left to be seen because we can only speculate when it comes to dealing with the US government right now, because the position of the US government is not even an ideological one. It's one which, you know, they take a stand one moment and then they switch the next moment. You know, they try to do the bullying with Cuba and all of that. And of course, you know, hold them off on that. But it's left to be seen all these other compromises, if we want to call it that they're making, what we are really to make of them. You know, if anything will in fact result in a positive way for Jamaica. So, you know, that's the only thing we can say at this point.
What about the GLP and the election?
Well, when it comes to the GLP and the election, there's much we can really say. I mean, here's the whole thing about it. We gotta look at what the polls are saying. You know, what the atmosphere is on the ground. If all these, you know, moves by the GLP in recent years and even now with them not resolving certain you know issues, you know, is gonna really boost them in the polls or give them any electoral chance. You know, it's one that it's a situation right now that's a bit unpredictable. You know, so we have to really see where it takes us when it gets into the real height of the electoral season.
Okay. John?
Yeah,
You
let me comment on a couple of things. First of all, it's not the first time we send troops to Haiti. Jamaica has a reputation for policing based on the training we have gotten from Sandhurst, is it, in England? And the other one, the American one, named what?
West Point.
West Point. And my recollection is that during that guy there who was deposed, we sent troops to help stabilize and build the military and the police force in Haiti, and also to help build the civil service. So it's not the first time. I don't see that as anything that would be a big factor. However, the government of the United States is very transactional. That's what motivates them here in Jamaica, as it does with everywhere else. It's about what can I get from you? And if I get something from you, I will give you something. The other thing is, my understanding is that the meeting on Cuba was not a meeting only with Jamaica. The other prime ministers came to Jamaica, and the meeting was a kind of British English speaking meeting. Trinidad, I don't know who came, but my understanding is that it was a number of them that came up for this meeting. And also the speeches that were made prior to the meeting were predominantly of the view that they're not going to send home any Cuban doctors. It will be I would think that in the climate that was created prior to the meeting, it would be hard for Holness to comply with such a view, even if he wanted to. But why would he want to? The impact of the Cuban doctors is more almost 50 years in Jamaica. 72,
74.
74 to
Yeah.
now. My understanding is that in all, there were about 1,400 doctors and teachers, 1,500. We have a huge majority in the English-speaking Caribbean are coming to Jamaica. Imagine the impact of 50 years of Cuban doctoring on the community where there is a shortage of doctors and maybe in some areas shortage of teachers. To send home 400 of those people would have a devastating effect on the government on the eve of an election. I remember in my own brief but very instructive political career, having a doctor come every day, every week in the community was a huge positive. And that's the same impact that the Cuban doctors are having. If somebody don't actually go to a Cuban doctor, almost everybody in Jamaica knows somebody who go to a Cuban doctor. And they only have good words to say about the service. But I've never heard negative words. Let me not say that they only have good words. But my impression is that that is the case. That through the time that they've been coming to Jamaica, they have a huge social impact, so that government after government has allowed this program to continue. So on the eve of election, I would think that Mr. Holness would not see it in his best interest to close the door to this program. And as far as Rubio's thing about, people not getting paid and trafficking and all that bullshit, I mean, I would ask him, which countries do they go to where they are trafficked? I'm sure him cannot name any, but so be it. That he had to back off from that. So those are the comments I would make in terms of those issues.
I
Honestly.
just said to Edlin, he said I made false statements about Jamaica and the Chinese. Well, Rubio was addressing China's posture in the Caribbean and the rest of the world when he said what you just mentioned, John. Right? So I think it's, they have nothing to support that argument for Jamaica, that this is happening in Jamaica, that Chinese are trafficking in any persons or the Cuban.
No. The Chinese issue is a different thing.
Well, I'm talking about both the Cuban and the Chinese issue.
Right, but the posture on China is different. It has to do with Chinese investment versus American investment and American tourism. And
but the irony is this: they're going to improve on American tourism.
Correct.
All right, based on the things that they talk about. But I did not see where or didn't hear anything in the press conference.
Nothing was mentioned on China.
All right, there you go. So hopefully
It's
that
like
clears up.
it was a dead horse. Nobody talk about China.
Right, right.
So then it is safe to assume that we haven't heard the totality of this discussion. What was discussed?
No, they never usually tell you the fine details as to what was on the list. There's stuff that they both go back and reconsider. And he might have made an offer when it comes to funding and all these other things, right?
Yes, and you asked the question: is the U.S. government going to support um, Holness government to be re-elected? And the answer is yes. But how? It cannot. It's not going to be an open. If they can help them bring down crime, that will be helping them win the election. And I have some comments on that, having listened in detail to the budget speech. But that's the form it's going to take. I don't think there will be any explicit, because I think we underestimate the likelihood of the Jamaica Labour Party winning this election. We do so at our peril.
As far as
Why you say that? Why you say that?
I say that because having listened to the full budget speech, I was I see a picture which he is playing out, and that picture is more positive than I think we give credit to the government for. The fact that they won by a significant landslide in the last election, the fact that I have a list of things that he referred to, but even on the crime thing, we asked.
only 29% of voters showed up, John.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not saying no. It's not that.
Well, that means 70% of the country did not vote. Eligible voters didn't vote.
Correct. And all I'm saying is we should not underestimate. Some of the speech was definitely election speech. A significant part of the speech was election speech. A significant part of the speech was don't bring back chaos and disorganization,
Well,
namely
the
the PNP.
yeah.
Yeah, but John, you must agree that when you take Trafigura and the other so-called PNP,
Who is Traffic Guru?
well, that was the scandal that the PNP was involved in monies that they took from this is a company or a corporation or wherever, right? Now the fact of the matter is, look at the kinds of monies being stolen, being ripped off. See, we have a short memory now. 3 trillion missing, unaccounted for. Now,
Herb, you don't have to convince me, you know. Herb, you don't have to convince me. I'm just telling you that
I hear you.
we
Well,
must.
here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, that we gotta be careful of. Right? We gotta be very careful about the speculation. Right? Because this is where we really show up that we're not in touch with what's happening on the ground, right, in Jamaica. We know that given the last electoral cycle and given the situation as it is right now, there's only one thing that can determine, right, a real positive outcome from the election. and is work being done on the ground. All right. We need to engage ourselves more with those involved in that kind of work to get a real temperature of what things are like.
And how do we do that?
Well, we have had some of these people on the show before, right?
Well, we need to have a closer temperature. I agree, but we also need to realize. Let's put it this way: the way the government present their budget, which was highly the way that speech was made, and the indicators that what he did was look at the 60 years of independence and show all the different things that they have accomplished when the country did get mashed up, the balance of payments, the debt, what they call the debt distress, when FinSAC came, all of these crises were during the PNP. So what I thought this presentation is technically it is an attempt to show that their leadership, their way of governing has given stability, security, and profitability to Jamaica in the last 60 years. I am not saying it's wrong or right. I'm just telling you we cannot just criticize IMF, or we have to see what is the picture that His Holiness is painting. He's painting that they are the ones, not the PNP, who have brought stability.
Here's the thing, John. You're talking about something pretty much different from what we're really discussing right now. Right? We're talking about now with the upcoming elections. What can we expect? Right? What kind of shifts or signals are we seeing and all of that? That has nothing to do with what you just mentioned, right?
But
because
what
you just mentioned is in the distant past, right? We're talking about what the climate is like right now.
Well, the answer to that is let's see what happens. And the answer to the last election is that one party got 46, whatever the turnout was. They ended up with 49 seats to what? 16?
We know the results, but all I'm saying is, understand me clearly. I think what we need to be doing right now is trying to engage more with those working on the ground, right? Whether it be JLP, PNP, whoever. Right? I don't see the GLP being too favorable to coming on our program and having a discussion around it. But certainly, right, we can there are PNP workers who we can zone in on, right, and engage them in that discussion, which will help us to have a better evaluation of what's going on.
Patrick, why don't you reach out to them and let us know? Because that would help,
Well, for one, I do have much in terms of contact on it, right? You probably no doubt you have more contact than I do on it, right? Because like I said, we have had some of the people I'm on the show already. I don't want to call their names at this point, but there are things that we can do, right? And we have the resources to really do that, right?
we have
Which will
we
give
have,
us a better, which will give us a
Anybody,
better.
yeah, I will just say this. Anybody who doesn't see the budget speech as a pre-election speech is blinded. This speech is clearly a precursor to calling the election. And my point is that we underestimate the GLP to our own peril. I'll make that point again. So we can call anybody. I just look at the way the PNP have absorbed that speech. Well, you know, I'm still to listen to Golden's response, but I have downloaded the one from the Prime Minister, because some of the data in there is hard data, including what they're doing about crime. Somebody said last time how they claim to lower the death murder rate per 100,000. Yes, him said that in the speech. Yes, him show that the poverty has gone down in the country. Unemployment have gone down. That is an election speech, my brethren.
Yeah, but do we see any reflection, a greater support for them? That is the question we cannot answer.
No, we have to look at the polls.
And I'm saying,
What do the polls
we
say?
can't go beyond the polls. We
Yeah,
can't
we
go beyond
can,
just the
but the
polls.
the polls will be a better indicator, but not a perfect indicator. I mean, I think it's worth. I think it's worth. Listen, I'm going to listen to Golden's response. It's an indicator. It's not a measure, a precise measure. But clearly, anybody who doesn't understand that this is, they announced several initiatives which are handouts. For example, in education, instead of giving away 10 scholarships, they talk about 200 scholarships. These are like handouts.
Again, it's just a speech. It's just a budget speech. We have had many of those.
No,
Well,
I'm only saying, as our group is very left, we are all coming from, maybe, we're all coming from a leaning, and all I'm saying is we should be cautious to not get caught up in that little corner. That's all I'm saying, my brethren.
My point precisely.
I want to say this though. I listened to both speech, and I will agree with John that it's an election budget that the GLP present. You know,
The
when you listen
PNP
to
or the JLP?
JLP, when you listen to that speech, it's like, because I listened to Golden first and then listen to Holness, to me it sounds like he's just responding to what Golden said. He didn't lay out a vision, and I was disappointed with that. On the PNP side, that's the GLP side. On the PNP side, I heard a lot of talk about programs, what they're going to start, and the funds that they're going to put in place. But guess what? There's nothing in neither the PNP or GLP presentation that speak to the issue of criminal justice reform in Jamaica. And that is a major problem we've been fighting since the 80s. One would expect, the politician them would come and say something. We're all going to reform the system.
I'll respond to that. I'm not defending the government. I'm the last man, but I listened to the speech. He addressed the question of not having that the police don't have what you call it, camera. They have issued cameras, but nobody wearing them. And he addressed that in his budget speech. He said that they need to have other backup equipment to make the camera make sense. And that that's what they're rolling out now. So he addressed that. He addressed the fact that they have invested more capital in the police in 2000 and whatever year, the data is there, than any other government before since independence. More car, more police station, pension fund for the police and the soldier. He addressed the point about gangs from 210 gang, growth in gang from 210 to 370, but them reduced the murder by 22% over the same period. Whatever the method is, they see it as progressive, as positive.
And that is expected. That is expected, but that doesn't mean that is what it is. Yes, a lot of money going into the police or what have you. But what about the prison? What about the prison?
What about the prison?
Man, you know that GP prison is coming out of slavery?
Yes,
And
I've been there. I've been there, and I'm sure nothing has changed with it.
Nothing changed. Nothing changed. All we see happening in terms of the crime is to give the police more firepower. That's basically what's happening, and that can't be the solution to crime and violence in Jamaica.
It's not the solution, Mikey. It is a short term. What is every government doing in Jamaica? They initiate programs before an election. If election is a year, that's short term.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you, John, they give the police more firepower and everything to lock up the youths there. When the youth them go to prison, go serve time and come out, what is there for them? There's no re-entry program. None. You them spend long time at jail and come out and then just let them loose. And I'm saying that this is something.
They've not been rehabilitated, Mike.
Yeah.
But we're not disagreeing. But that's not the government is interested in showing. Is there a direct impact with their current program to reducing murder? The answer is yes.
Gentlemen.
Let me put it this way. It was the USAID funds that they would use to do some of these rehab programs.
Yeah.
And to create training and development. That's
correct.
gone. That is out the door. And
but here's the thing. Hold on. Gentlemen, let's not fall asleep on this thing and just talk, for the sake of talking. Right? We know the kind of government we have. We know the system we have in Jamaica. Right? Why are we acting as if we're surprised when it comes to GP, right? Or crime, right? Or the fancy speech that they'll give in terms of addressing crime. We have had many of that. And what has happened? What has been the result? The fact is that there's only so much. Right? There's only so much we can say when it comes to talking after them. Right? Or there's only so much we can say when it comes to dealing with crime in Jamaica. Right? What we have to be more particularly concerned about is, right? How are we gonna how is the impact of all of this gonna shift that electorate, that part of the electorate that never voted in the last election cycle, right? How is it going to increase votes? And where's this support likely to go? These are the things we really need to be looking at, right? What are the real issues of the people right now? Right? Because these are the things that is going to give us a closer or somewhat of an idea of what the temperature is like.
Well, I can tell you one thing, Patrick. I talk with Jamaica often, and the sentiment is exactly what John Arton is saying. Don't rule out JLP and Holness. That is a sentiment amongst progressives in Jamaica. Don't rule out Andrew Holness.
Let me read something to you. Can I
Yeah.
read something from the budget speech? It says here,
Yeah.
we have increased the income tax threshold. When we came in office, the threshold was $592,800. It is now 1.7 million and will move to 1.8 million next month and then to 2 million over the next 2 budgets. Increasing the income tax threshold is my baby. Oh, well, meaning his thing. No matter how the PNP try to claim it now, after first rejecting it, every PAYE taxpayer should take comfort that as much as we can, we will reduce the income tax. It is in our DNA. Next policy, we reduce GCT from 16.5% to 15%. And we are now reducing GCT on residential electricity by more than 50%, from 15% to 7%. We reduce transfer tax on property from
with all of that, John, is that saying that portion of the electorate, that 60 or 70%, right, which never voted, are likely to come out and vote now for the JLP?
No, but
No.
the one who you're not following, the one who gained most from a low turnout is the JLP.
Exactly.
Okay. So who are these measures geared towards? The first one is geared towards the grassroots. The threshold is geared towards services and to small business. The transfer tax on property is geared towards the middle class. We reduce the pension relief and age relief from 80,000 to 250,000 each, and we plan to increase it in the next budget to 250,000 each. We increase the turnover threshold required for registration to pay the GCT tax from 3 million to 10 million. That is for business. And are now increasing up to 15 million. More relief for small business. We also increase this. So this part of the speech is a pre-election speech.
And
that's all I'm saying.
Does that make the electorate more comfortable?
Wait, no, I'm not saying whether it's electorate. I'm just reading some information.
I know, but you're reading what we already know.
Okay, well, you said that it's not a factor. The budget speech was not a factor for elections, and
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
Okay, all right. That's what you said first. The reason why I read this, then on the crime, all of us agree that crime is a big concern. And where is it?
Is it the number one concern among Jamaicans?
If it is not number one, it's certainly number two.
I'd say it is.
Right.
It is what? Number one, number two?
I think it's number one.
Either one. either one, Patrick, either one is still, it's high up there.
Okay. And is that the reason for the is that what's being outlined by the government right now? Right, gonna pull more people out to support them in that drive?
Yeah, what he's saying is we are reducing murders. We are disbanding gangs. We are attacking gangs. And we have done, we are setting up the forces. The results that we have accomplished, we are going further to set up the police and the soldiers to do more of the same.
Okay.
I'm not sure how far they're going to go with that because the election year and politician always come and make all sort of nice and promise. And once the
Exactly.
election pass, they go back and do something else. So I don't know.
Exactly.
But what is clear, the question that we should be asking, for whom is this budget? The PNP and the GLP, for whom are they presenting the budget? Because I hear a lot of promise, start that, and I'm not sure it's going to go to any far, anywhere. That's this uncertainty, and that's the reaction I'm getting from people that, well, politician just come and promise thing and then they move on to the next thing.
Well,
So
in this speech, every second paragraph by the Prime Minister was to say that everything bad since independence
and PMP,
was a PNP. And he had the data to substantiate it. Manly time, he called it was a period of socialist experiment. The oil crisis and Manly time, Michael Manley, that is, was socialist experiment. So he says Jamaica spent 38 years out of our 62 years as an independent covered country, recovering from crisis. Let that sink in. 2 of the 4 major crises that we
My
have
question
faced,
to you, though, John. My question to you, John.
2 out of 4 of the major crises that we face were directly caused by bad economic management of the PNP in the 70s and the 90s, accounting for 24 of the 38 years of crisis. And the man provide significant economic data for all the different crises.
I hear everything you say, no, John. I hear everything you say, and you're still
And
fixated
that,
on
what that message is,
on the speech. But the question I have for you is this. Right? First of all, just to go back on what you just said, in terms of what he said pertaining to the 70s and all of that. Is there any truth to that?
that is the
Is there
point.
any truth to
There
that?
is
Is
truth.
that the reason
If you
for the
put
70s?
all of the data, if you
That's
put
not correct. That's definitely not correct.
inflation,
That's misleading.
job creation, economics, the economy, the exchange rate, the balance of payments.
That's
If you
misleading.
put these things, but Patrick,
That's misleading.
well, go and look
We
at the
know what
speech.
happened in the 70s.
Go and
We know
look.
what
I
happened in the 70s.
have an economics degree, and I have looked at the speech and the data.
We don't need a degree to know what happened in the 70s.
Yeah, but what you mean you don't need? The country,
We don't need
that's
a
the
degree
point
to know
I'm
what
making,
happened in the 70s.
They are portraying the Manly period. All I'm saying is the way that the PNP is silent. The PNP
Why are you defending this thing? Why are you defending something that's not true?
John, the feedback I'm seeing in the chat is that the Prime Minister is very creative in what he's saying. And it amounts to lying.
Exactly.
Because the Manley era, the successful part, was deferred by the undermining that Edward Seaga did.
Yes, and that is, listen,
long term.
Absolutely. The American government did not sit quietly and allow a transformation of the country. This is the point. You have to be able. How is the PNP going to respond to this? By turning their back on the Manley years? That's the question you must ask yourself. There's no way to address the Manley years except to show that the American government actively campaigned whatever crisis Jamaica faced. That crisis was aggravated and made worse by the involvement of the United States.
It's not just being aggravated, it was initiated, John.
Absolutely. So we don't disagree, gentlemen. I am asking you, why is the PNP not answering like that? Damn it.
The PNP don't need to get dragged into any discussion about defending the Manley years, right? Because the Manley years speak for itself, right? We know what happened. So if we're going to talk about what happened, we can talk about what happened. What we're talking about now is that we're not facilitating the lies. We're not facilitating the lies that are being told. Why should we facilitate them?
I don't understand you. I'm saying,
in other words, why discuss something that is a lie?
And I said earlier, the 3 trillion that is unaccounted for, it far exceeds anything at all done in the Manley years, and anything at all even done back in the
what 3 trillion is that? You mean the corruption money?
The corruption money.
Right.
The corruption is what.
Why don't he come out and say that?
You expect him to come out and say that? You expect him to come out and say that?
Why not?
You expect Wellness to come out and say that?
No, I'm talking about the opposition, Golden. Why aren't they? What is their response?
Said before, John, believe me, it's like we could get into a situation where people hearing the echo in the room, hear themselves talk, but that's not what's happening. The Jamaican people, because of social media, are well versed in what has caused the problems in Jamaica. So it doesn't matter which way Hollis wants to explain it, or what spin he wants to put on it, right? Economics is economics, and they are responsible for
we cannot just
dragging down the country now. With all the undermining they have done. They've dragged the country down over the past decades.
Exactly.
They can't come out now and say our hands are clean. We're not responsible. Of course, what they should be talking about is expanding reparations from the UK to the US, because there should be reparations paid for the undermining and the destruction done to education, healthcare, and everything else.
But that's a different topic. That's a different topic.
You mean because of what? Slavery? Britain never do nothing after slavery. They're not the ones who caused the education to crash, or the brain drain, the lack of doctors.
Who did the undermining then?
The American government.
Okay. And doesn't it add up to the same thing that the Jamaican people, children, and everybody else were disenfranchised as a result of that undermining.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying the leading opposition party in the country.
Yeah.
The way that my man present this thing, you know, him say that during the Wellness present this thing. He made the point that certain company, without calling no name, during the FinSac crash, right? It made them bail out. Them had to pay 42% on interest. And debt to GDP went from 72% to 130%. And therefore, they couldn't invest nothing in the people, which is true. If you are paying more than your GDP in debt, you don't have no money to build school or to do nothing. Okay, no road, no school. That's what him is making. That's the point he's making.
And we know that. But how is he making a difference? How is he making a difference? Is there the sitting government? How is he making a difference? How is he gonna make a difference?
The people have two rivers. Them have two rivers that flow. One river named JLP and the next river named PNP. If your river quiet and it stands still, it now flow, it go on like it don't have no channel for flow upon. And the other man river bumpy, it a tell lie, but it a flow. It a make nice. The other one now say nothing. What you think that the technically what you're doing is you're handing back the power to the one that making the most nice.
So speak to what ought to be done, and not speak to what not promote the madness.
Well, I know this much. Jamaican politics is a weird thing when it comes to budget speech. You know, the man who is closing has that advantage to talk, right? In that person is wholeness. He has that opportunity to talk after Golden presentation. And I'm pretty much sure that if Golden had the opportunity, he would have respond to what Wholeness is saying.
Let me just make sure I get the order right. I thought the first speech was Wholeness speech.
No, the finance minister, then the leader of the opposition. No, the finance minister, then the opposition spokesman on finance, then the prime minister, then the opposition spokesperson, leader, and then the prime minister. The prime minister closed it. You know, so you have to bear that in mind, John. Right? They went last to bat and they had that opportunity. The PNP is just now trying to correct something. But I don't know where Patrick confidence come from, but it seems as if Patrick locked into a JLP defeat. That is what we should be looking towards. And John is saying, no, too early for that. You know, anything is possible. And what I'm hearing from Jamaica, people who are activists, is that you can't rule out Wholeness because I'm very creative. So the question for me then is the PNP. The PNP, how effective they are in light of the internal war that is taking place inside the PNP right now.
And believe me, the prime minister is so aware. His speech included congratulations to Portia Simpson. Congratulate all the people who said are non-partisan, like Portia Simpson and one name from the previous head of the PNP,
Peter Phillips.
Peter Phillips. Him call these names. I'm well aware that there is division in the party. And what he's saying is that these are the people who, by standing up non-partisan to support the country and not just their party, whereas this man here, Golden, and the rest of them, the little small little group of them that could fit in my study, them can't fit. It's a few of them was there who him reading him and him holding him cell phone the whole time. To me, why, I don't know. That don't look like leadership to me.
Who Golden or who?
Golden.
But you did.
What here is the situation.
But you didn't saw it. John, did you look at Golden's speech?
No, and that's I have to take. I said I didn't get a chance because really I spent too much time on the other one, and I only started listening to them this morning. I'm going to listen to his own tonight. So my problem is that the opposition narrow itself into a little the boundaries that they have to criticize the government are so narrow because they don't want to upset the US. And here say your visa can't go, you can't take plane go to America. But at the same time, how are they going to even give credence to the manly years, which him call a moment of distress?
Well, Patrick said there's no need for that because the history is already there. We know the 70s. So.
The people have short memory, Patrick. You know that. Marcus Garvey know that. And we should know that too. People have short memory.
It's not that they have short memory. It's that their interest is not aroused based on what's going on presently.
Yeah, and that is the same thing. It's the same thing. You are right. The bigger the turnout, the better the chance for the PNP. But why would a big crowd come to vote for the PNP at the moment? Why?
Because the Golden is making connection. A lot of people see him as honest and clean.
Based on the work on the ground.
Yeah, a lot of people see him as honest and clean. And he might push that line, say, boy, him not coming in politics to take away nothing. He might clean and he might clean. And people love that. Yeah? So
clean, what does clean mean?
Him not in no corruption.
Well, but Golden push up a big thing to do with the FinSac period. Where
what do you mean?
You remember Golden, the Golden was part of Deering, Bunting, and Golden. When FinSac had to bail out the country, certain companies made a ton of money if you were in foreign exchange. And his company made a ton of money.
They were into banking. Banking always make the money.
Well, you're only saying what I'm saying.
The business of banking, particularly in a capitalist economy, is to make money. And that's what they do.
So John, what are you saying? That tarnish Golden?
That what?
That because they make money, it tarnish him?
No. It's not that people do. I'm not saying that people must make money. What Holiness is implying is that the policy of the government at the time explicitly benefited a certain sector who because a lot of companies went out of business, including me, during the FinSac years. When the banks went down, they had to be bailed out until people came in from overseas to buy them. So Mutual Life, Life of Jamaica, NCB didn't go. NCB did, yes, in fact, until what's his name came from Canada and took it over. But
That's it.
yeah, Chin. So I'm not saying people mustn't make money. What I'm saying is he points his finger, wholeness that is, to people who made super profits in a period um, when a majority of small business went bankrupt, which is true.
So you think that that is what is
I think that Golden would be
posing a problem
for Golden
yeah.
because he have money from those years, and I don't see him as
It's
going
government money.
outside
Is it
of that.
government money?
Eh?
Is it government money? Or is business money?
No, what you mean? I don't really know. I can't speak definitively to what
No, but
probably.
you mentioned earlier about his company there in Bunton and Golden, right? And
Yeah, I
and
don't. I'm only
and the fact that they made
speculating.
money, during the
Yeah,
FinSac
the article
period.
in the budget speech, the
No.
attachment.
Hold on. Again. This is what I keep saying to you. Right? I'm trying to get you move away from trying to defend this budget speech, right? Because
Brethren,
that's all you've been talking about,
yeah, because
right?
I think we
And I'm saying to you,
underestimate.
hold on. And I'm saying to you, right? This problem that is a Golden have, right? Because of the FinSac period and his company. Is it government money or is it private money, the company money?
I can't answer that because I'm not sure.
Of course you can
It could be
answer.
both.
Of course he can answer it. Of course he can answer it. He never did that as a prime minister or as a government minister, right? His company was there making money. Okay, fine. That's what companies do. That's what banking especially does.
Yes, and
Right?
the
So
point
why talk
people are
about that?
saying I'm one-sided,
No,
and the
but why
reason
talk
why
about
I
that?
appear
Why even
one-sided is
mention that?
because I haven't read the speech by Golding to see what it says. All I'm saying is that even without reading the speech, I am looking at the big picture. The big picture is a picture which says we, meaning the Labour Party, have stabilized the country. The period of time in Jamaica when we have had crises is the period when the JLP was running the country.
And
I mean
that's
the
not
PNP.
true.
No, wait, no. I'm just saying that this is the picture that they're painting.
But it's a false picture.
Well, there is data to support that argument. What we have to
To
show.
support what argument? That it is false? Yes, certainly. There's data to support that it is false. But that's
No,
not the way he
but what
present the
data
data.
would support that is false?
But that's not the data he's presenting. He's presenting one that is misleading.
No, what data is saying is false? I don't agree that it's
I'm
false.
saying the data is there to explain it being false. I didn't say that. I have the explanation. All I'm saying is, right, the facts speak for itself. We know that that's not true. The stable period, right, was not just during his time in government. That's not true. It's plainly not true. That's not what got people upset, right, with the JLP. Look at what got people upset, and you'll see the data.
What got people upset?
Like I say, I'm not here to argue that. I'm not here to argue that. John keep pushing this. In fact, I don't even want to talk about the budget, right? Because that's a show. That's a show.
What do you mean a show?
It is
Explain
a
that
show.
to me.
Because again, right? There's misleading information being put out.
Yeah, but that's always happened both sides,
Exactly.
PNP
Exactly.
PM,
And that's why I'm not
and
here to talk
GLP.
about that.
But that
Right?
is
So
what
I'm
we
not
say we're
gonna
going to
get
talk
into
about.
it and delve on that like what John is doing. All I'm saying is, right? All I'm saying is that we need to look more at the reality of the situation. Look more in terms of what the temperature is on the ground, right? Try to zone in on that and speak to those issues.
Well, we can do that, but
right?
I
I'm not saying it's one
maintain
way
that
or the other.
the data is a data from independence to know. We don't dispute that murders have gone down. Have they gone down under the JLP? Yes or no?
Again,
Yes.
I do have that information before me, so
Well, I have it.
I'm
It's
not.
right here.
I'm not here to talk about that, right?
I won't even say they have gone down under the GLP. I would
Right,
say
that's
that
why you have to be here,
the Prime Minister turned the police loose on the Jamaican population, and they've been executing since January quite a few of the so-called bad men. Right? The police have a record amount of killings this year.
And we have talked about some of these things on the show.
Yep. So if that's the way that they're gonna control murders by creating murders themselves, then that's not the way to govern. That's not good governance, right?
And we know what happened under the last commissioner, right? Being in wellness pocket.
Yep. Well, he's going to be here shortly, so he'll be closer to you.
Which commissioner? Anderson?
Yeah.
Yeah, Anderson.
To the newest ambassador to the USA. So you can come visit him, John.
Who is that?
You guys make sure you're registered at the embassy. Mike, you come down from Boston, and Patrick from Philly, and you up from Florida.
Gentlemen.
And visit who?
The new ambassador. They're gonna have welcome on board for him and all kinds of stuff.
Gentlemen, I think we have exhausted this topic. We can go.
No, I don't think we have exhausted it. What we should do is spend some time. Those of us who haven't read the wholeness thing, and I will definitely read the golden speech, and we should have a part 2.
Look, John, the bottom line is this. I can't give Holiness credibility because he has not earned it. All 8 years he's been in, or 7.5, or what have you, he has not accounted for a whole lot of funds. He's gotten rich, right? He's gotten rich, and he has illicit funds that have been identified. And he's doing everything he can to block that investigation. So I can't all of a sudden today start giving him credit because he gave a nice speech in Parliament. And
which isn't true.
I mean, he's not trustworthy. He's not trustworthy.
But you, Patrick, just said that we don't have definitive proof that he thief money.
No, we have definitive proof that somebody in his office picked up money in Mexico, brought it to St. Lucia, opened accounts in his son's name. We have that. So there's no such thing as we have never presented anything that we know that Mocha and the very what you call where the judge runs the what's the people who investigate him. They've had all that.
Integrity Commission.
Yeah, Integrity Commission. Mocha and the Integrity Commission, they just don't play well in the same sandbox. They just don't support each other. The Mocha was created to investigate all these high-ranking people. And Mocha been turning around and investigating who stole candy out of the cookie jar at a lower level. Right? That's not why Mocha was created. Mocha has not made a single case to support the reason that they were created. To
You sure about that, Herb?
Are
you sure about that?
I am positive. You name me a single
We have talked
minister
about
of
these things on the
government.
show before.
They haven't made a case?
What
Didn't
case have
you
they made,
didn't you
Mike?
say that they made a case one time,
Listen.
Mikey?
When Mocha was assigned to the SSL case initially, I said, okay, finally they're gonna do their jobs. Finally, they're gonna investigate and tie government to ripping off the people in through SSL. Finally. And what happened? They've never had a chance to finish that investigation. Right? CTOC, the superintendent of police who became deputy commissioner. Well, name him retired now. Him run will leave the job and never finish any of these investigations. So Mocha is stuck with no reputation at all for taking on the bigger cases. And guess what? These guys have attorneys assigned to them who are police officers, right? And they have the former head of the military intelligence unit that has intelligence capability to do intelligence driven investigations. So where is the proof that Mocha deserved the billing they got, that they would be the FBI of Jamaica, that they would have been able to handle these bigger cases? Yeah, they haven't accomplished a damn thing. And so we're stuck with them. They're like an albatross. Big bird can't fly. So until they resolve issues like finding out where the 3 trillion Jamaican went to, or identifying where Holness's money, where and when it was transferred to, what connections does it have to Grace Kennedy and their banking system, First Global. All of these things they need to start looking into, which was given to them as a gimme. Right? Where's the KPMG report that was supposed to be certified after they did it and handed it over to the Minister of Finance, who's now up here in Washington enjoying the benefits of his IMF or World Bank assignment? Where's all of these things? Where did it go to? Who interfered with all these investigations? Why hasn't Mocha done the damn jobs? And nobody gets fired. It's just like the DPP. Nothing she did was her fault. She's never been fired.
Who is that?
The DPP, Paula.
Yeah.
You guys have short memories. You don't remember all of this stuff.
No, I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, I mean, the scandal after scandal, John. Lack of
But-
accountability.
But Herb,
Anybody this man has hired to be accountable to the people of Jamaica, none of them have accomplished anything. And him don't fire nobody.
And him keep shifting responsibility to his office.
There you go.
Right?
How
that
is
him-
that
so that him
different
can
from
come
the
further cover
PNP?
up.
How is
Yeah,
that
further
different,
cover up.
Herb, from the PNP?
PNP don't have the
Who
chance.
get fired? Who has been fired in the PNP?
For what?
yeah, man. Colin Campbell.
Colin Campbell
and
over
Copland.
Trafigura.
Yeah.
And then they found out which report is that, Pat? They found out that it was Mr. Siaga and Smith who profited from another scandal that they blame the PNP for.
Yeah,
That's
that's what I'm saying. That these things are things that we have talked about. But what happened is that I don't have the information before me right now.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to get into too much of a discussion on something which, I don't have in front of me.
I mean, these things matter, right? We can't give this man a pass at this point, John, because he has never been accountable.
Yeah, but regardless, we still have to be objective.
What do you mean
and-
by we have to be objective, Mikey? If the man has not been accountable, if the man has lied, he has manipulated the system, you giving him a pass? For what? I mean, the facts are facts.
Well, I don't think that's what John is saying. John is saying that the man present data to support his argument. That's what John is saying, And data is data.
To support what argument?
Whichever argument he's making, but
No.
present...
Not whichever argument. John mentioned it specifically. The argument about from the 70s or the 60s coming up. We're not in the 70s or the 60s now. That's not where we are.
But that's not what John is saying.
I know that's not what John is saying.
Okay,
Because
well,
John
let's...
is talking about, John is trying to defend his speech.
And I don't think that is
The
correct.
speech gave data which is factual.
And I know what you said, John. And yes, you're saying it again, right? That the speech gave data which is factual. And I'm challenging that and saying that's not correct. Because based on what you're saying that the speech said, right, that's not the way it was. That's not the way it was.
Mr.
So
Moderator,
stop trying to defend something that's indefensible.
I would like us to come back to this topic and review the two, because Patrick has not read the speech that I'm referring to. There is a section in which he refers to a table, but in the speech that I downloaded, the table is not presented.
Okay. Well, let me hear from the others now, what they think. Patrick and Herb, next Sunday we look at the PMP goaling thing.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, we must
If
be
you're right.
fair. We must be fair.
Okay.
The people, the listeners are criticizing me for not being fair, and that's true. I think we should both look at both speeches and assess why the PNP is so dormant. Is there a river? Patrick said we must go to the community and see if any river coming down for the PNP. I don't hear about no river.
But you hear about river for the JLP.
No, I say that
Oh, Lord.
them present, they don't need a river. The PNP is the one that need river.
Okay, I get you. So they don't need a river, and that's why you defend them.
No, I not defend them.
Of course, you clearly that's clearly what you're saying.
There's no defense for
That's
what's
clearly what
going
you're
on.
saying.
There's
Because you keep
absolutely
backing
no
yourself into
defense
this
for
stall.
an accumulation of wealth while the people starve, while the middle class has deteriorated badly over the last
We
decade.
have
And the
to,
lack of accountability.
Damien's, there's a speech by, this is Damien, what's Damien's last name again?
Crawford.
Horton. No, Horton.
Horton is his
Damien
last name?
Crawford.
Damien Crawford.
Ross, you going mad me?
So what are we looking for, John?
No, I say we come back. We're going to go back to this topic. There might be some more information, but we can still go back to this topic next time.
Okay. In order to settle that, I want to move to something. Herb, you're the man in the security thing. There have been recently, there has been a state of killing in St. Anne's, Ocherius, and St. Thomas. And it's mainly GLP activists getting murdered. Have you heard anything about it?
You're saying in St. Anne?
In St. Elizabeth, no, in St. Thomas, in Portland, St. Thomas, and Ocherius. The most recent one was at the gas station operator, GLP activist in Tower Isle.
No, I did not pinpoint that.
Well, I want to suggest you follow it up, because
Okay.
Darrell Vaz came out a couple of weeks ago, or probably a month ago, and point to the fact that since the campaign start in Portland, there have been a lot of shootings and what have you. And I raise it because our good friend recently moved to Portland, Isaac Buchanan, and he's also running for the MP position. So I'm wondering if they're trying to set him up by doing stuff or what have you. But I'm just funny, and I want to advise, ourselves to keep our ears to the ground and find what's happening in Portland and St. Thomas. But something is definitely happening in that area.
What they've said in the past is, yes, when ISAT came out, and with ISAT's popularity, there are political tensions.
Yeah.
Right? There's also out there, St. Thomas has one of the people that the U.S. has taken their visas.
Mm-hmm.
So was Portland at one point.
Yeah.
Right? There's gang-related violence and personal disputes being settled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is the interplay between politics and criminality.
Yeah.
All right. Now, they refer to a murder, Ramesh Simpson, a well-known JLP activist in St. Thomas. And that murder involved gunmen targeting him outside his home.
No, this one, other guy named Butchie or something, where they target him in Tower Isle.
Tower,
okay. Yeah, Tower Isle, former activist, JLP activist. Let's say he's a JLP activist. But some folks that I know say that it's not politics, it has more to do with drugs.
What's his name?
I don't remember his name, but...
No, what you call him a while ago? Butchie or something?
Butchie or something like that. Just type in JLP activist killing in Tower Isle.
I'm just wondering if anybody in the chat knows what drug-related fraughty,
Fraughty, yeah.
FRAWTY.
Yeah.
Okay.
They say it's like 70 shots he receive.
Boy, you have them, you look like you have online database there, Herb.
You have, I have stuff that can tell me
Yeah.
what.
We don't have to go into that. We don't have to go into that on the year, man. That's what you have a bridge. You don't have to share that. You know, that's.
Well, before I even take a deep breath.
Yeah. Well, I think, gentlemen, I want to thank you all for today's discussion. You know, it's very enlightening. I learn a lot, and I hope the listeners learn something from what was said here today. One problem I have though, the like. You need to listen, man, listener. You need to press that button and hop the like and the subscribe, please. We need
Yes,
to move
and not just like they must put the what you call it, the thing what you call it, sign, what you call it, the thing where you do on YouTube.
I don't know what you're
you click on it, man. Oh yeah, how do I make comments in the chat? I was trying to get in the chat.
You have a Gmail account?
No, I don't have no Gmail, but I have an account for YouTube.
Well, you can log into the chat or sign up for free.
John, you have to subscribe. Go to the thing and subscribe.
Which thing? Go to thing. Which thing? Where it says join the chat?
YouTube and sign up. Go to YouTube.
Right. When I click on it, it says YouTube. And then I click on
subscribe. You have to subscribe, John. Let me end the stream.